Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. We will begin in exactly a few seconds from now. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sandeep Maini, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the Sandeep and Gitanjali Maini Foundation for this unique talk, The Untold Story of Mysore Lancers by Yashashwini Sharma. This is going to reveal some fascinating details and heroic tales, all part of our city. It's such a pleasure to have you all with us this evening. As you all know, Bengaluru is a city like none other. While we all agree it's got the best climate year-round, it's also got a great food culture and it's a happening city. There's something about Bengaluru that attracts everyone. But do we have heritage sites? Monuments? Yes, of course. Many ask us where. We have a deep-rooted history, but unlike, say, a Delhi or a Chennai, where people know of heritage sites and monuments, in Bangalore, we pass them without realizing its presence or significance. As we move around in our daily life, not in the current pandemic scenario although, we have a few places and memorials in Bengaluru, but at most times they go unnoticed, sadly. At one time or the other, we have all gone past Funworld, the Doordarshan Kendra, but never has it struck us to cast a glance at the war memorial situated right there, commemorating the heroics of the Mysore Lancers. With its ideals in preserving art, culture, history, and heritage, our endeavor at SGMF is to unearth these unique, untold stories of our city and of our state. Our speaker for this evening, Yashashwini Sharma, is uniquely qualified to shed light on what many of us may have been unaware of. Yashashwini is an architect, academician, author, and researcher. Her practice spans a varied range of contemporary and heritage architecture to smaller scale urban interventions to conserve the tangible heritage of Bengaluru. She has done fieldwork assistant and measured drawings of Chalukya and Hoysala temples for the AHRC funded temple project, and has been an examiner, juror, and guest lecturer at various architectural engineering colleges. She's also been at the forefront of community-driven initiatives to secure tangible heritage of Bangalore city through EA Samrakshane, a conservation program. Over the next couple of months, SGMF will put together talks and programs dealing on the history and heritage of our city and state. SGMF is a not-for-profit organization and is uniquely positioned to find and provide information, thereby creating an awareness. It's our sincere effort to preserve the heritage and culture and spread knowledge that may otherwise remain only with a select few. That, I'm sure, is something that Yashashwini will vouch for. Thank you once again for joining us. Let's sit back and enjoy this talk. However, before I go, a quick run through for all those who have logged in. There is a Q&A session at the end of the talk, and kindly post your questions in the Q&A chat box at the bottom of your screen. We'll be glad to have them answered for you. Over to you, Yashashwini. Welcome once again.
Thanks very much, Mr. Sandeep Maini, for that wonderful introduction. A very good evening to all. Thanks to the Sandeep and Gitanjali Maini Foundation for hosting this talk, and to Mr. Prasad, who was putting together everything in place and everyone else at the SJMF Foundation. So let me just share my screen. Mr. Maini, could you please enable screen sharing?
Just 1 minute, ma'am. I'll do it for you. Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
You can please try now.
Welcome to the talk on the untold story of Mysore Lancers. When I was asked to do this talk, I'm basically an architectural historian. So I was thinking whether I'm qualified enough to talk about war history, but what better way to register our remembrance through this talk. So a little bit of background to Mysore Lancers, how they were raised and why. After the conclusion of the Third Mysore War and the Fourth Mysore War between Tipu Sultan and the British East India Company, as part of the subsidiary treaty, Article 3, Mysore Kingdom was required to maintain about 4,000 cavalry in Bengaluru. And this was raised through the remaining troops from Tipu's army. And that is how Mysore Lancers and Mysore Transport Corps came into being. Pant was appointed as Bakshi. And this particular cavalry helped General Wellesley to his campaigns in Asai and Arga. Mysore Kingdom also provided grains and other supplies. And he was so pleased with this, with the action of Mysore Lancers and particularly of Vishnu Pant, that a pension of 600 rupees was set aside for him upon retirement. So this marks the genesis of Mysore Lancers. And in about 1887, when Maharaja Chamaraja Vajaya was reigning over Mysore Kingdom, he proposed to the government of India that he would maintain for military defense a suitable military force for active service. So then the Mysore Imperial Service Regiment was constituted on 1st April 1892 subsequently as a force similar to the British Imperial Cavalry. Now at the same time, the Imperial Service troops were also being maintained. British India Army was also maintained, and the Indian Army Act had also come into being. And almost all colonial powers were vying with each other, trying to impress who had the better force. Now, as part of this exercise, a number of paintings were done. The Imperial Service troops were catalogued by Major Alfred Crowdy Lovett, who was both an officer and an artist. And that marks the first imagery that we get of both Mysore Lancers and the Imperial Service troops. Coming to the Great War, the World War I, that commenced on 28 July 1914. This was prompted by the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, who was the heir to Austro-Hungarian Empire, along with his wife. And he was killed by the Serbian nationalist, Gavrilo Princip, on June 28, 1914. So this prompted the World War. But the war was basically concentrated in Europe. But since European powers were also colonial powers at that point of time, even the colonies got dragged into the war. Indian Army, consisting of many divisions, independent brigades, they took part in action in European, Mediterranean, Middle East, and African theaters of war. More than 1.3 million Indian troops served overseas. Of these, 62,000 died and 67,000 were left wounded. In all, we lost more than 70,000 soldiers. The Great War, of course, left more than 16 million people, soldiers and civilians, dead. And it was followed by Spanish flu, which added to the misery. So on your right side, you see the theater of war in a map. Now, Mysore lancers were called into action. At that point of time, Maharaja Krishnaraja Wadiyar, Nalvadi Krishnaraja Wadiyar was ruling the throne. And he immediately sent his troops. Also, he donated a massive sum immediately to the war fund, about 50 lakhs. A regiment of Mysore lancers consisting of 29 officers, 444 non-commissioned officers, men and horses about 500 and odd, mules 49, and followers 444 were all pressed into action. Followers 132 were all pressed into action, and they left Bengaluru on 13th October 1914 to take part in the Great War under the command of Sardar Bahadur Chamaraja Aras. Incidentally, his granddaughter marries Maharaja Jayachamaraja Wadiyar later on. Maharaja Nalvadi Krishnaraj Wadiyar also sent his brother-in-law, Colonel Desraj Aras, as his personal representative, as an observer of the Darbar. Indian Army fought against the German army in Battle of Ypres, and Khudadat Khan became the first Indian to be awarded a Victorian Cross. Indian divisions were sent to Egypt, Gallipoli, German East Africa, and nearly 700,000 served in Mesopotamia against the Ottoman Empire. What we are interested in is a theater of war against the Ottoman Empire, this little bit on the main Eastern Front. Mysore Transport Corps also accompanied, and their theater of war was around Tigris, Kutalamara, and Baghdad and Mesopotamia. So bullocks, mules, ambulances, and supplies were all sent time to time. The primary force which was sent was also reinforced from time to time. This is our point of interest, which is part of the Ottoman Empire. And you can see various places marked over here, from Rafah, Palestine, to other areas which were invested. And in the right-hand corner, you see the Mediterranean area. Now, Mysore cavalry force, the Mysore Lancers, were basically in the Sinai and Palestine campaign. They were part of the Egypt Expeditionary Force, which was led by General Maxwell. They later on participated in Gaza and Palestine, and which was led by General Allenby. Now, this is an imagery. Most of these images are drawn from the Imperial War Museum, Australian War Memorial, and others. I'm just showing this to show how tedious the process was of transport and maintenance and living and fighting in those conditions. The soldiers had to travel by sea, and they had to fight in an environment which was alien to them. Particularly when Jodhpur Lancers were fighting in France against the German army, the climate was not one they were used to. The food was not one they were used to, and they did not have any source of comfort because they did not have their family around them. Despite all these odds, they fought with great bravery and gallantry and were recognized in dispatches sent by their commanding officers from time to time. Now, the 15th Imperial Service Cavalry consisted of Mysore, Jodhpur, and Hyderabad Lancers. And these are this is the troop that we are going to concentrate on. So they were fighting with the Desert Mounted Corps. They were also fighting in Palestine. As you can see, I hope you can see the screen properly. The capture of Haifa by 15th Cavalry Corps is also marked over here next to Mount Carmel. By this time, the Mysore Lancers had participated in smaller conflicts in the Suez Canal zone that participated as part of Egypt Expeditionary Force, as I stated before. They had also participated in the taking of Jerusalem and so on. So this is a view of Mount Carmel, and I'm showing this just to impress upon the audience today how difficult the terrain is. But the Battle of Haifa is probably the most known of all the other battles that the Mysore Lancers were part of. This is because this was an independent charge by Mysore and Jodhpur Lancers, as opposed to being led by British officers. This happened, and the catalyst for this was the arrest of the Baha'i leader, Abdul Baha. He was captured on the instructions of the Caliph, and the British forces received news that he might be executed. Now, why this was done was because he was providing aid to those wounded in war, and the empire, the Ottoman Empire, suspected him of being sympathetic to the Allied forces. Now, the Allied forces were fighting against the Axis forces in this particular war, the Allied forces being Britain and France and Russia. And later on, you see the entry of America as well. So what happened in the Battle of Haifa, that it is the most celebrated event of the time? Now, as I said earlier, the route to Haifa was through narrow terrain where you had Mount Carmel on one side and River Kishon on the other side. An advance party which went there was fired upon by artillery guns which were placed on the lower slopes of the Mount Carmel. What they came to know at that point of time was that the artillery guns were in 4 different positions, and unless they were taken out, an advance into Haifa was not possible. There was a shortage of time because the Baha'i leaders' life was also on the line. So Mysore Lancers and Jodhpur Lancers, who were shifted from France into this area, were asked to take Haifa. The Lancers were armed only with lances and spears, and they had to fight machine gun fire from well-entrenched Turk and German soldiers. Indian soldiers accomplished this mission without any direct supervision, like I said earlier. Mysore Lancers had to ride against the terrain and move stealthily and take over the artillery guns. This they did this they did and enabled the Jodhpur Lancers to advance directly into Haifa over artillery guns. And Jodhpur Lancers and Mysore Lancers were able to take control of Haifa easily. So this is a well-known battle for the simple fact that soldiers armed with just lances won over the enemy, which is equipped with machine guns. These pictures, the painting and the photographs show the slope of Haifa, which Mysore Lancers had to ascend in order to take the artillery guns. Soon after taking over Haifa, they were welcomed into the town, and in the photograph you can see both Mysore and Jodhpur Lancers. The one in white are the Mysore Lancers and the one in khaki are Jodhpur Lancers. It wasn't just in warfare that the Mysore soldiers participated. The transport corps participated in providing convoy to the line of communication. in also construction of trenches, trench warfares, and as well as maintaining, as well as maintaining the lines of communication. A total of 24 persons received Distinguished War Service Medal for their bravery. I cannot mention all the officers, so I have just mentioned the 24 officers who received the Indian Distinguished Service War Medal. On the right-hand side, you see the Order of Gandaberunda, which was also presented to few officers. Coming to the officers themselves, Colonel Desraj Aras, as I mentioned earlier, was the brother-in-law of Nalvadi Krishnaraj Wadiyar, and he was a representative of the Darbar. He took part in the action in Gaza, and he was also mentioned in communications to the Mysore Darbar. Before this, he had also participated in field in Burma, which resulted in the capture of King Thibaw and annexation of his country. So for the service, he entered in Egypt from October 19 to January 1916 during Great War. His name was mentioned by General Maxwell, and in appreciation of the services rendered by him during the war, His Majesty the King Emperor awarded him the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the British Army. And in June 1918, the Maharaja decorated him with the First Class Medal of Gandaberunda Order. Coming to the other officers, Sardar Bahadur Chamraj Aras was highly praised for maintaining the right spirit in his men and by personal example, teaching them how to undertake duty, however monotonous or irksome it may be. And the British officers who were connected with the regiment all remarked of the nice tone that prevailed in the regiment and what a pleasure it was to work with them. So when he retired from the war and he was asked to return to Mysore, Brigadier General Habart, commanding Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade, he wrote that Sardar Bahadur Chamraj Aras, that he cannot let him vacate the command of Mysore Lancers in the field without placing on record his appreciation. And that he was a strict disciplinarian and he possessed a strong innate sense of justice. For his, on returning to India, he was appointed the Chief Commandant in 1919. And for distinguished military services, he was also appointed to the Order of British India in June 1916. His Highness the Maharaja honored him with the First Class Medal of Gandaberunda Order and the position of Lieutenant Colonel in Mysore Army. He also received the foreign decoration of White Eagle of Serbia from His Majesty, the King of Serbia. Coming to the other officers, Rizaldar Lingaraj Aras should be mentioned for his exceptional courage. On 23rd November 1915, a squadron of Mysore Lancers operating 15 miles east of Kantara had to face a force of 60 Turks on camels with an advance guard of a raiding party which was 200 strong. He and his team and his soldiers pursued them for 7 miles with the result that 7 were killed and 12 were captured. Among the dead was the Bedouin leader Rizqallah Salim, with whom Lingaraj Aras had a hand-to-hand fight. And he was ordered Indian Order of Merit for his extraordinary gallantry. Lingaraj Aras was also the son-in-law of Chamaraj Aras. Unfortunately, he lost his life in action at Aleppo on 26th October 1918, just a day short of armistice. Among the transport corps, Farzullah Khan has to be mentioned for his extraordinary leadership, as well as Commandant A.T. Tyagaraj, who was specially mentioned in dispatches for gallantry. Jamadar Abdul Ghaffar Khan of Imperial Lancers, while serving in Egypt, is supposed to have showed great coolness under heavy fire while leading his charge, his squadron in charge against strongly held army position and rallying his squadron even though the British officer had been killed in action. Coming to Rizalda Subbaraj Aras, he was another young hero who obtained the Indian Distinguished Service Medal. Upon an attack on ferry post in Islamium, the patrol commanded by Subbaraj Aras and came suddenly upon enemy who were entrenched. And they advanced close to them, mistaking them for their own men because they could not distinguish between the friendlies and the people who were attacking the colonial powers. The enemy immediately opened fire, and Sawar Ram Singh fell off his horse and he bent over the horse's head. Subbaraj Aras, who was some 30 yards in front of him, returned to the place where Ram Singh had fallen, took him on his own horse until they were safely behind a hill. And he returned to India in February 1920, and in the following month, he was appointed Commandant of Imperial Service Lancers. Risalda Krishnaraja Aras is another young hero who is entitled to honor. He met the attack of Turks on Suez Canal in 1915. He had about 40 men with him, and he ended up capturing 80 camels and took 40 Turks as prisoners along with much booty. In the beginning of 1916, he joined General Archibald Murray and served on it for about 9 months, during which time he had the opportunity of meeting the Prince of Wales, and he accompanied him to various side camps. In 1917, he followed the movement of regiment from Suez to Gaza, where he was again in action zone. And in the Suez Canal zone, Krishna Aras showed great gallantry, leading his squadron in a charge against a strongly held army position under heavy fire. He was severely wounded in hand and chest, yet he continued fighting until exhaustion overcame him. His example is supposed to have inspired all ranks, and he was awarded the Military Cross by British government and the title of captain by the Maharaja, as well as the White Eagle of Serbia by the King of Serbia for his brave action. Mir Turab Ali also needs to be mentioned. He enlisted as a Sawar very young and rose in ranks, and he underwent machine gun training, and scarcely a week had passed when his skill was put to proof, so to speak. There was a Turkish redoubt at Bel Mahadat, and Turab Ali fired 300 rounds out of his machine gun when his machine gun got jammed. But his fire was so effective that the defenders who had not fallen retreated. Turab Ali got his commission as Jamadar in January 1915. He was placed in charge of a machine gun section, and he led with great alacrity, great clarity. He was also appointed instructor of 15th Machine Gun Squadron. It is a surprise because he received training himself only for a week, and his skills were put to test, and then he ended up instructing the squadrons. And he trained and made ready for the field 2 subsections of Bikaner Camel Corps and Jodhpur Imperial Service Lancers. Turabali accompanied Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade to Jericho, took part in several engagements, and he was mentioned in dispatches for gallantry and devotion to duty. He also took a conspicuous part in the Battle of Haifa. Under a heavy fire of machine gun and artillery, he led an attack upon a hillock and captured a Turkish officer, 4 machine guns, and other booty. One of these guns was brought back to India by the regiment as a war trophy. For these services, Turabali was awarded the Indian Order of Merit, and the Maharaja promoted him to the position of a Rizalda. A road is named after Turabali in Mandi Mohalla, Mysuru, and it exists to this day. On the return of the war heroes, Maharaja Nalvadi Krishnaraja Wadiyar gave them a fitting reception in February 1920, and he says, "Your discipline and spirit were throughout the campaign excellent, and I congratulate you on the splendid manner in which you acquitted yourself at the front and upheld Mysore's martial tradition." Memorials to Mysore Lancers have been made both by the British government at New Delhi at that point of time in the form of the Teen Murti Chowk. Teen Murti representing the Mysore, Hyderabad, and Jodhpur Lancers. They're statues of the Lancers. And the road on which they stand is the Teen Murti Mark. This was renamed to Teen Murti Haifa Mark, and the chalk was renamed to Teen Murti Haifa Chalk on the visit of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Prime Minister Modi also visited Haifa in 2017 and paid respects to the Indian soldiers. There's a war memorial in Haifa as well in their name. Israel has released stamps and poster covers in the name of Mysore Lancers. Now, the Imperial Service Troop, the 15th Imperial Service Cavalry Brigade, was integrated into the 61st Cavalry Brigade, into the 61st Cavalry upon independence of India. But their insignia still remains Ganda Berunda. Mysore Maharaja Nalvadi Krishnaraja Wadiyar also congratulated all the officers and men of Mysore Imperial Service Lancers upon their return, as mentioned earlier. And there were celebrations of about 4 days upon their return. From 13th December to about 16th December 1919. The schools, offices, courts were all closed, and peace celebrations were made, and there was a general holiday and public thanksgiving which was given. Now, apart from this, apart from the troops that were given, apart from the transport corps that were sent, Mysore also contributed a substantial amount to the war fund, all totaling to about 2 crores. I mentioned the initial donation as about 50 lakh, which was supplemented from time to time. There was a war loan also which was floated, and a war fund which was floated. The president was Yuvaraja Kantirava Narasimharaja Wadiyar, was also the honorary treasury. And when they appealed to the people to donate, they got generous donations from the people of Mysore. This was all used to send supplies and other articles of comfort to the people fighting in conditions which were unfamiliar to them. There is a memorial in Mysuru in the form of a mosque which was constructed in 1922 in the bodyguard lines, in Den bodyguard lines. And Nalbadi Krishnaraj Wadia is supposed to have addressed them in Urdu upon the construction of this mosque. In Bengaluru itself, there is another memorial, the Haifa Memorial, which Mr. Sandeep Maini mentioned at the beginning of this session. There is a memorial which mentions all the names of the officers who were martyred in action, a roll of honor. There's a Gandaberunda insignia. The Mysore Transport Corps are also mentioned, and the places where they participated in action are also mentioned on this memorial. Some time ago, I was asked to prepare a proposal for the enlargement and redesign of this memorial, which I happily accepted. I was only too thrilled to do it. So our firm has proposed an enlargement of the circle, as well as the installation of an equestrian statue of Mysore Lancers. And the design is inspired by the decorations worn by Mysore Lancers. So this is the circle in Atinagar, and the memorial stands on what is Colonel Desraj Aras Road. For some time, it has lost its name during road works since the plaque was pulled down, and with great effort by the descendants of Desraj Aras and other officers of Mysore Imperial Cavalry Force, this has now been corrected, and the former corporator inaugurated the new plaque with Colonel Desraj Aras's name this year during the Haifa celebrations, which is held every year on 23rd September in Bengaluru. For the past 2 years, the Consulate of Israel has also been involved, and the Consul General also, the Deputy Consul General also participates in these celebrations. These are photographs from celebrations of the Haifa Memorial Day in Bengaluru. During last year's celebrations, our proposal was also unveiled, and then a corporator, Mr. Ganesh Ramani, and Mr. Bhaskar Rao, who was the police commissioner at that point of time and now is the ADGP, and other members, descendants of Mysore Lancers, all participated in this particular program. Maharani Pramoda Devi Wadia also took part as a chief guest in last year's function. This year's event, of course, was subdued because of the pandemic situation. However, it was celebrated in whatever way. And the Israel Consul General also participated, as well as the parachute regiment took part in this time in celebrations. Now, this is really heartening that they also participated. In Bengaluru, there is another structure which is called Mysore Lancers Masjid, which is within the parachute regiment lands now. I do not have photographs of it since it is a protected area. But this was also following the return of Mysore Lancers upon the victorious return from the World War action. So to end this lecture, I would like to read address of the Prince of Wales when he visited Mysore. His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, at the banquet given by His Highness the Maharaja during Prince's visit to Mysore in January 1922, remarked, in October 1914, Your Highness's Imperial Service Lancers sailed from India for Egypt. They fought in Egypt, where I had the pleasure of seeing them in 1916. and subsequently took part in 2 years desert campaign, which ended in the capture of Gaza and the fall of Jerusalem. In both the latter engagements, they played a brilliant part. They then joined the famous 15th Cavalry Brigade and were active in the advance in the Jordan Valley and the final series of engagements which broke down the Turkish resistance and carried our arms into Syria. They distinguished themselves at Haifa, where they drove the enemy from strong positions on Mount Carmel, capturing 7 guns and 300 prisoners. At the final action at Aleppo, they were again to the fore with a fine charge against heavy odds, in which they suffered severe casualties. They only returned to India in February 1920. The honors and decorations won by the corps and the frequent mention of the officers and men in dispatches bear eloquent testimony to their courage and efficiency and to the excellent spirit and tone which prevailed in the regiment. The Imperial Service Transport Corps proceeded to Mesopotamia in 1916 and continued on active service till the end of the war. It won the highest commendations from the general officer commanding in Mesopotamia. All praise is due to this gallant corps and to the officers who helped them to deserve and win their high reputation. In addition to keeping those units up to their full strength, 5,000 of your Highness's subjects enlisted in units of the Indian Army. When I turn to the more prosaic but equally important question of the ways and means for the war, I find that the assistance given by the Mysore state has been of equally high order. At the outbreak of the war, Your Highness offered 50 lakh rupees towards the cost of our expeditionary forces. You added a further gift of 10 lakh rupees and later another gift of 13 lakh rupees. Your state subscribed 14 lakhs to the Imperial Relief Fund and invested 105 lakhs in war loans. The people of your state gave 2 lakhs to war charities and invested 113 lakhs in war loans. The contribution from Your Highness's state and subjects reached a total of nearly 2 crores. Besides this, the state was prominent in the supply of hides, timber, blankets, and other material necessary for the efficiency of our arms. The war record of Your Highness's state is indeed a notable one, and it is a great privilege to me to be able to offer my thanks and congratulations in person tonight to Your Highness on these achievements. So, I hope everybody can see the screen. I'm not sure.
We're not able to see.
Okay.
Maybe
anyway, it is concluded now, so that's fine. So during this war, whatever casualties were the soldiers who martyred in the war field, their families were also looked after by Mysore state. So the war fund enabled them to do this. So one can see that the ruler had in mind not just the fact that he was contributing to the Imperial Service Force, he was also taking care of the families which were left behind, and the Yuvaraja played a major role in this aspect. So with this, I conclude my small talk on the untold story of Mysore Lancers. The session is now open for questions and answers.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening. Thank you so much for a very unique perspective that you have offered today on the Mysore Lancers and, their battles, their, acts of bravery, very, very unique perspectives. Before we begin, I would just like to acknowledge a few very distinguished guests who have joined us tonight and listened to the talk. On our guest list here, I see Shriji Arvind Singh Ji Mewar, So thank you, sir, for joining us. I also see many people from the Ars family have joined us. Names of their ancestors you have been referring to throughout the evening. So thank you very much for joining us today. And your talk was not just unique in the imagery that you shared with us, some things that we've never had the opportunity to see before. Because like Mr. Maini pointed out, though we have, many memorials and many monuments in Bangalore, we do have a lack of museums and public spaces that actually display this history for interested parties to go and view. So talks like this are very, very encouraging and very enterprising because people like you who have archives actually offer us a new glimpse into all these things. We also have audiences from our Facebook who have been watching, sending in a few messages. One that I would like to acknowledge is a message by Mr. Srinivas Gaikwad, who speaks about his father, Sri Lakshman Rao Gaikwad, who worked as a Lance Naik in Mysore Maharaja's light infantry in the years 1945 and between 40 and 45. And also his grandfather, Ramarao Gaikwad, who worked during the Haifa period, and that there is a memorial in JC Nagar that bears his name.
It's the same memorial.
Yes.
I spoke. Yeah.
So it is so interesting. The people are keen to watch, keen to listen, keen to understand, and the perspectives that you have offered are so unique tonight. So I have some questions that have come in from our viewers. So let me begin by taking a question from Veena Ravikumar. She asks, a lot of Mysore Lancers were absorbed in the Mysore administration. Do you have any idea of how many and where they were absorbed?
I'm not really sure about that. I will have to look up records and then tell them. But of course, people like Desraj Aras were always, commanding the Mysore troops, and they were also advising. So that part is, of course, acknowledged. But of the other officers, I'll have to look into records and then come back to her on it.
Okay, thank you. Sindhu Jagannath says, I feel, okay, Roshni M. Thank you for this informative lecture and throwing light on the details of the Mysore Lancers. How would you define the significance of such war memorials in our cities today? Is it symbolic of the past cultural relationship between the two countries? And what relevance do they hold today?
That is an interesting question from Roshni. Thank you. Now, the significance of war memorials, one is to acknowledge their bravery and to remember what has been done. And they were not fighting for any selfish reason. They were fighting for justice and righteousness and liberty, as Nalvadi Krishnaraj Wadiar himself put it. Now, after the conclusion of war, Yuvaraja Kantirava Narasimharaj Wadiar had Indian war heroes compiled by M. Shamrao. Now, most of the details which I'm speaking today, the details that I have given today come from this chronicle. And this doesn't start with Mysore, you see. It starts right from the time of the Greek attack, in BC and comes into Common Era and to the German War. The purpose of doing that was to give these role models to the people, to the citizens to look up to what they should aspire to do. And the Maharaja himself, he had a vision for his own country, his kingdom. He had a world vision too. Now, if you look at what was happening at the same time in Mysore, when the war was happening over there, here they were building hospitals and schools and universities, and they were trying to prepare model citizens for the future. So all of this goes into, creating citizens of good character. And if we are going to forget those who have given their life for the cause of right and for the cause of justice, then we are, we are reduced to a bunch of ingrates. So I think it's a way to be grateful to what we have attained. And of course, Indian troops took part with great gallantry because they were also aspiring for home rule at that point of time. Now, this did not come to be during right after World War I. It took some time, but this was all because they were aspiring to rule themselves. And this was a one unique war in which Indian troops came together and they happened to beat European troops in their own soil, you know, in unfamiliar conditions. So I think that boosted their morale as well. So all in all, a lot of things happened because of that World War. And it is high time we remember them and we acknowledge what we have gained from it.
In fact, most history books throw very little light of Indians' participation in the World War and what their role actually was. And for anybody, the World War is always only about the European countries that fought in it. India's participation has been
Yes.
very minimally recorded. So I think you're very right.
Including publications by scholars.
Yes.
I recently was going through a visual a guide to World War I, in which there is about 2 sentences that mention the 15th Imperial Lancers or the Imperial Service Troops in themselves. There are just 2 pages of that. And
do you have a perspective on why that could be?
I think Britain was a colonial power, but they're now shy of acknowledging that. So they do not want to state it. And if they don't want to state it, then we should. Because, you know, in all, millions of Indians participated. And the Great War was won by British forces simply because of Indian troops. And when Indian troops landed in France, there was a great celebration because they were outnumbered by Germans. Right. So you have photographs of French women offering flowers to Indian soldiers because there was a perceptible relief among the public. And there is also in the general conduct, when Maharaja Narmade Krishnaraja Wadiyar visited Germany later on, there is an interesting postscript here to World War I. When Krishna Aras was engaged in actions, he came upon a set of paintings by one artist, Robert Stockman. Now he brought them back to Mysore. And when Nalvadi sailed on his European tour, he took these paintings with them. And Krishna Aras was also accompanying. So he was also in service at that point of time to answer the other questions. So when he landed in Germany, he requested that this artist be found and the paintings returned to him. And the artist was found and the paintings was handed over to him. And he was so grateful that he gifted a few of his paintings back to Maharaja. And this gesture was widely acknowledged by Germans. Of course, Germans were the vanquished, but you can see how Nalvadi endeared himself to Germans to this one action.
It's so interesting to see the foresight that the rulers or the powers at that time actually had, despite the circumstances that surrounded them.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing this information with us. I think Mr. Srinandan, we've answered the first part of your question. He wanted to know why these acts were not actually in our history books. You've just addressed that now. There is a second part to Mr. Srinandan's question. He says he wonders what was the unique thing about our forces that it triggered them to fight in such difficult circumstances.
Well, we need to read their memoirs for that. Otherwise, I will just be guessing. Yeah. Mysore fought for its king. That is pretty much sure. Yeah. And from time to time, Mysore, the royal family, and the public, they addressed the Mysore Lancers and they sent booklets, of address of the Maharaja to the soldiers to encourage them, to also offer them some solace from homeland. So they were fighting for their king. They were, on duty for him, and he was reminding them of honor with which Mysore Lancers fight, and that honor is above everything else, even above life. So we are pretty much clear why Mysore Lancers were fighting.
Yeah.
Why the rest were fighting? Because princely states were fighting for their own rulers.
Okay.
Because princely troops were all led by Indian commanders,
Yeah.
as opposed to the British India forces, which were led by British officers. So there was also, of course, like I said earlier, the expectation of home rule. So that might be true for them.
Mr. Raja Chandra points out that the Duke, he says that it is supposed that Duke of Wellington had a very high opinion of the Mysore Lancers and the Transport Corps. Asai Road in Bangalore is named after his best war, after the best war he fought. Can you elaborate on this role?
Thank you, Mr. Raja Chandra. To those people who do not know who Mr. Raja Chandra is, he's the son-in-law of Maharaja Jayachamraj Wadiyar. So I'm very glad he asked this question. But I think he may have missed the part when I was speaking about the Queen Regent Lakshmi Ammani and how the Mysore troops and transport corps were raised, and how they fought alongside the Duke of Wellington. He was not the Duke of Wellington or the Prime Minister then, but in his campaigns in Asai and Argam, they participated with him. And Vishnu Pant was specially praised in Bhaigya, the Duke of Wellington, and which is why he also received the pension of 600 rupees. We know that about 60,000, I think, cartloads of grain was also supplied to him. The Maratha warlords were fighting at that point of time, the Raja of Berar and Dhondia Wagh. They were creating a lot of trouble, and in all these campaigns, Mysore Lancers excelled themselves while supporting him in the attacks. So, and the Maratha warlords were subjugated because of their participation. So I hope that is a satisfactory answer.
Thank you. I think we have a lot of people who are attending your talk today who actually have some sort of relation to people who actually fought, who were part of the Mysore Lancers. So I have Ms. Veena Ravikumar, who also says very interesting talk. Two of her uncles were in the Mysore Lancers, and her grandfather became one of the Diwans of Mysore. Then there is Mr. Raghavendra Raghu, who says, he's part of this webinar today for some, reason, because he might have played some sort of a small role in the Mysore Lancers. So a lot of people who, have some sort of relation or some sort of the talk holds a lot of significance to them. So it's very interesting to see these, comments that are coming in. I have a question from one of our Facebook viewers right now. He wants to know a little more about the conservation of the monument that we referred to, the war memorial that we referred to earlier. You did say that your firm had put up a proposal. Would you be able to elaborate a little more on that? Are we looking at some sort of further development of the monument?
Basically, we are not changing the monument if he thinks that is happening. What we have proposed is an enlargement, because there is area around the monument and it needs to be protected better. And I think what is there right now doesn't do enough justice to the valor of our ancestors.
Yes.
So there is also a little bit of area behind the memorial, which is right now the property of the Parachute Regiment. So of course they will have to approve this plan for it to see fruition. So what we have proposed there is an equestrian statue of a Mysore Lancer, as well as plaques which display the names of the soldiers, including those who are martyred. Now there is a roll of honor, but we do not know, who are the soldiers who have all participated. So we need to do that, and we need to also give people a place where they can sit, rest, and pay respects to their departed ancestors. So I think that was what was uppermost in my mind when I proposed that. Of course, it's all subject to approval. There was a tentative approval last year, and that also happened quite by accident. On a meeting of then MLA and now DCM, Dr. Ashwath Narayan, I just happened to have the proposal in my hand, and he just looked through it and he called the corporator immediately and said, can you, look into this? Because this is something we should do. We should remember our soldiers. So the corporator then was Ganesh Rao Mane. I think now there is, the new corporator has yet to be appointed. He was also very happy with the proposal, and he said, they're going to consider it, but it's still in discussion at this time.
I think we should now impress upon the Deputy CM to please action this. It will really be an interesting part to, be added to Bangalore's eclectic history already, and something that so many people will actually look forward to, something that they can visit, something that they can see and feel on their own. It'll be a beautiful thing for us to do for the city, I think.
Yes.
Let's all try our very best. If anyone who's listening who has influence with the Deputy CM, please do help us out on this one. I'm sure Mrs. Sharma will be really happy with that. There is another interesting question that has come in from Mr. Ramesh Kirgaval. He asks, were the Mysore Lancers duty bound or compelled to go to Haifa? Or did the Maharaja send them as a friendly gesture to the British?
Well, Mysore was friends with the British, so they fought as allies and on the same footing. And at that point of time, Nalbadi was also asking for the return of the assigned tract where cantonment was maintained. He was also looking for a constitutional monarchy, is what his father, had tried to establish with the representative assembly, and he was taking it forward. So I won't say they were compelled, because when Mysore kingdom asked for volunteers, people signed up. So volunteers don't sign up because they were compelled to do so.
Absolutely.
So I think they were proud of their king as well, because Nalbadi's rule is known as the golden age of Mysore.
Yes.
And this was a time when they saw, concern for the public, and concern for health, concern for education, concern for girls' education. All of this were facets of Nalbadi's personality. And he is the king who pledged his jewels to construct a dam for his people. So I don't think, the soldiers might have fought for the love of the king too.
Yes. And probably the feelings of patriotism were running so high during that time that each one of them felt it their responsibility to contribute in whichever way they could, for their king and, for their country, or whatever were their sentiments at that point of time. So yes, I think with that, we've addressed most of the questions that have come our way. Thank you, ma'am, for a very, very informative talk. I'm just going to do a quick check on Facebook and see if we have anything else coming in from there. Please do give me a moment. No, I just see that we have a lot of viewers with a lot of thank you comments, appreciative of the lecture. A lot of people seem to have, really liked the fact that you have shared so much information. So, yes, that's a lot of thank you comments that have come in from our Facebook audience. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for this very, very informative talk. Thank you for taking time off and doing this for us today, sharing your evening with us. We do know that you were quite busy, but it has been truly inspiring and so informative, and such a unique experience to see this, wonderful archive of photographs that you have shared with us today. We do hope that, your proposal gets approved sometime soon, and it will be brilliant to actually see a, beautified and a more in-depth version of, the war memorial that is already existing. So we do hope that happens sometime in the near future. And thank you so much for sharing your information with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for hosting me. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
So thank you to everybody. Thank you to the team at SG.